Box90 here with the first of my Modern Masters full set review, and I'm going to do it a little differently than some other people on YouTube have done it, which is they do it by color. I'm going to do it instead by type. So we're going to have creatures, instants, sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, lands, and planeswalkers. In order to save space, because some of them are smaller, such as the enchantments, I'm going to do a couple in one video, and I'll probably do creatures, instants, and sorceries, and artifacts separately, and then do enchantments, lands, and planeswalkers together because there are only a fewer number of them. So we'll start out with my thoughts. Pyromancer's Swath, which is 2 in a red. It's originally from Future Sight, I believe. If an instant or sorcery source you control deal damage to a creature or player, deals that much damage plus 2. At the beginning of each end step, discard your hand. So in EDH, there's a number of potential combos with it, especially if you end up having ways to refill your hand, plenty of Wheel of Fortune deck, stuff of that nature. And then, of course, it's just go crazy burn and do tons of damage. So in a limited environment where you have lots of powerful burn, which you do in Modern, this is a really solid rare. Bridge from Below we kind of talked about already. This is the official new art. They didn't have this on MT Salvation, now they have it. I personally love the art. The old art's cool too, but I really love the new art, and I really hope they get a wallpaper. Bridge from Below pretty much fits into a number of dredge formats because it allows you to make lots of dudes using graveyard stuff, and of course it has its drawbacks, but it's pretty solid. Limited environment, I don't know how viable it will be. It will depend how strong the dredge and graveyard stuff is. I don't know if it's so powerful, but it definitely is used in Modern, so that's probably why it's here. Doubling Season, I mean, they took I think this is the promo art. This isn't the original art, and it's just, I mean, I'm sure some people like it. I'm not such a fan, personally. And of course, we all know Doubling Season is very, very powerful. It allows you to make tons of tokens and tons of counters, and it's going to be a monster in probably be a monster in Limited, just because there's so much affinity stuff, and there's just a number of tribal things. There's so many cards that fit into its types that it's just going to be, it's definitely a viable card. And of course in EDH tokens, it's huge, very well played. Blood Moon, it's a favorite of mine. Of course it makes mono red ridiculously powerful in Limited, because unless you're playing against a deck with a lot of red, you are going to basically control mana color. Multicolor decks would be trashed, and if this is the same in EDH, Blood Moon is a killer. For once you play mono red, I mean, it shuts down most of the decks on the table, unless they're of course monocolor. But if they're not monocolor, it's definitely going to do a lot of damage, and it's great enchantment. I love this art. Take Possession, it steals a permanent, but that in of itself is not only the only thing, it's also split second, which means it can't be countered, which, you know, that doesn't matter quite as much as Modern Masters, because there aren't so many counter spells, but even so, it's kind of ridiculous. And definitely a limited card. You take basically they play a huge bomb, you take it. Sure. Bound in Silence, pretty much is a pacifism. Why they wouldn't do something like pacifism, I guess it has to do with the fact that it's a tribal aura, rebel aura, but really, it could just have been pacifism. Moldavine Cloak is the last enchantment. It gives 3/3 for 3, which is fine, but the fact that it allows dredge is pretty much, I think, why it's here. It's a common, it's a fine card. Then we have our lands. So we have the Vivids, which hit play tapped. They add a color, and then you can remove a charge counter from them to add 1 mana. They're basically here for limited format. They're not so good in Modern in and of itself, but for budget cards, they're reasonable, and in Limited, they're very helpful. So they'll probably be used there. City of Brass we have, which everyone knows it's pretty much, it's a pain land, but it's a pain land for any mana. So it's a fantastic card. Definitely for Limited, it's used in EDH. It's a very strong card. Academy Ruins, used in EDH. It's legendary land, which doesn't mean as much once legendary rules take effect, the new ones in the summer, but it allows you to reuse artifacts, which in this format with so many good artifacts is definitely a shoo-in if you're running any sort of artifact base. Glimmer Void, of course, again, artifacts. There's a lot of artifacts in the set, and gives you tap it, add for any color. Ridiculous. Amazing card. And of course, modern staple, used in EDH decks for sure. Blinkmoth Nexus, we all know why it's there. Pretty much in modern, it's huge in Tron, it's in Infect, it's in Affinity. There's so many things it fits into. And it's maybe a slightly better Inkmoth in terms of how it's used. And personally, I like the new art. I don't think the old art was so special that this is a problem. Terramorphic Expanse, that's just for limited pretty much. And then Takmar Salvage, also Dredge, limited. And then lastly, we'll get to our 2 Planeswalkers. We have Sarkhan Vol, which is the casual, but everyone loves him in modern card. The fact that he's a pretty solid Planeswalker, and you know, he's not ridiculous. In EDH, he's fine. The fact that he gives haste is probably the best thing about him in terms of his plus and minus things. His minus is fine in terms of stealing. -6 is kind of, to be honest, is kind of useless in EDH, but you can see how it could be good in other formats, and there's just something about his abilities that seem a lot of fun for more casual players. He gives a lot of aggro impact, and in limited he's going to be a beast for sure, as is Elspeth, but she definitely will see more competitive play, and she's been seeing play in many formats for a long time. Very powerful Planeswalker. I personally love her. I like that they brought back this art and not the dual dual decks art. I really like this art a lot. So anyway, that is the lands, the enchantments, and the Planeswalkers from Modern Masters. So far, they're all pretty good. You have a lot of solid money cards. You have a lot of good EDH stuff, and of course, good modern. So stay tuned for the other types, the instant sorceries and creatures, as well as artifacts. Check out my channel sponsors in the description. Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.